All right, everybody. I'm just going to start some of these how-to home improvement things that I've done around the house, and I'm a big YouTuber as well. Anytime I look for something, how do you do it, how to do it, whether it's on my car, the backyard, I go right to YouTube. So again, subscribe here, get new followers all the time. But what I'm trying to do since I moved into this house was think of how, on a budget, I could change out my kitchen cabinets because it's the biggest eyesore. I mean, sure, late 90s, early 2000s, it was an awesome kitchen, but it's really outdated. So eventually I'm going to change out the tile with hardwood, so I'll get the hardwood there. But again, this is going to talk about options for your oak cabinets here. This is just your regular oak. And what the challenge is trying to paint over these. I've seen a lot of demonstrations, people using a lot of different things. I'm going to show you what worked for me. And I started with a half bath. And the problem with these cabinets right away was just the time it took to sand these little where the panel meets the edge of the lip here where these were put together. It's really hard to get all of that putty out of there, and it takes a long time. So as I was doing some YouTube searches, I found an idea, and it was basically just replace the faceplates in your cabinet doors. And I found out, hey, this is a better way, but of course there's always an easier way. And that's going to pay a little bit more money and have these pre-painted when you get these. The ones I use, they're MDF, and it's a bit challenging to primer and get it all painted. So it's pretty labor intensive. So I'm going to look at that option, see how much money it's going to cost me to actually buy them that are already painted and then match the cabinet paint. So with that, if you're just replacing the doors, time becomes a big issue, at least for me anyway, because I got a lot of other things I'm doing. So when you just replace the cabinet doors, your downtime on your kitchen is going to be a lot lower. You're going to save a lot more time. So instead of taking off the doors and painting everything, once you put them back on, it's going to save you a lot of time because you're only going to have to worry about the main cabinet area. And you could probably get that done. I'd say it's a stretch, depending on how big your kitchen is. You could get it done in a weekend if your cabinet doors are already ready. So let's get to it. All right, everybody, I'm about to tackle another project. This is kind of my first how-to videos, and I do want to preface by I am a meteorologist. My expertise is in weather, but I have a lot of other things that I do. I've done a lot of projects in the past, and Shelby's always been a part of those projects. She is my supervisor, aren't you, Shelby? I always make sure you're protected, though. But anyway, again, I want to preface that because I'm going to go through some stuff here, stuff that's worked for me, stuff I've seen on other YouTube videos, and I'm going to share a past project I did. I started on the half bath. What I'm trying to do is go through and redo all these cabinets with the oak, and I know there's a lot of videos, you're probably searching through a lot of those now, but I actually went through and took out the entire cabinet in a detached bathroom, well, the small bathroom, I should say, the half bath, just because I'm eventually going to tackle the kitchen, but I'm trying to figure out the least labor-intensive way to do that. Because if you don't know, these grains in this oak wood, if you just paint over them and you don't prep it at all, even with primer, this grain's going to show through and it's not going to look good. So what I have used, and I haven't seen too many videos with this is this Durham's Rock Hard Water Putty. It's really easy to mix, but you do have to work expediently, I guess, because it will set up. But I mean, if it sets up, you just mix a little bit more. But the reason I'm using this is because I've used this on my pool table to mend the gaps in the slate, and over 20 years it hasn't cracked at all. And that's got pool balls and kids throwing pool balls all over it, so I figure that's a pretty good product. So what I'm going to do is, in my search on YouTube videos, I found on a YouTuber's page, her name is April Wilkerson. She basically just bought new doors, and there's a company called Front and Center, and I'll post that link here as well. But basically just replace these doors. What I found when I did this in the half bathroom was that when you get to trying to patch with the wood putty in these cracks here, it's very laborsome, intensive, and it just didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. The other thing about the new cabinet face doors is you'll remove these hinges here and you'll actually have hidden hinges on the inside. So what I'm going to do with this, eventually I'm going to remodel this whole bathroom. And I'm going to go with granite countertops, take this big 90s, early 2000s style mirror out as well, and I'm going to retile the floor. But I figured first I'm going to tackle this. One of the challenges is the drawers. I pulled them out, and I've noticed it's going to be hard to just replace the drawer face without doing some major work. So I'm going to have to look into that. But I'm going to start off with this orbital sander, about 150 grit, and just kind of go around these, because this is a flat surface, so it's really easy to sand this. The problem is when you get these edges and these other contours on these other oak doors, it's just a real pain. So again, the goal here is to find the easiest, least labor-intensive method to tackle the kitchen. All right, it is day 2, and I'm saying day 2 because I can only work on this about 2 hours a day, and then I got to go to work. But tomorrow I get the day off, so hopefully I'll get a lot more done. But all the sanding's done. Some of the final sanding to the hard to get areas, you're going to need a little sanding bar like this, or you can just use regular sandpaper. And then one of these multi-tools works pretty good, especially to get the bottom areas and in between the drawers. And Shelby says it looks like we're good to go, doesn't it? So now I'm going to mix the putty here. And again, I use this Durham's rock hard putty because I've had a good history with it in the past. It says basically 3 parts of this to 1 part of this. And this is where I suggest you get something that your significant other doesn't care about to mix it in. You could use whatever stick, but I'm using a shim here to mix it. And since I've got this water bottle here, I'll just use this. But again, you're just mixing it to a consistency where it starts to kind of harden up. And this won't set up too fast. It's not like Bondo, stuff like that. All right, once you get it to where you want, basically won't fall off very easily off of here. And then I put these gloves on because I usually just end up smearing it on and scraping it off here with the spatula. So I'll start off trying to do it just regularly this way. Basically just taking this and coming along here. And you want to get it as kind of thin because you don't want too much to sand off, because then you're going to get a lot more dust. You're just filling in these holes here as you go down. And you're kind of working against time because this will harden up. And I'm not worried about my floor here because I'm replacing it anyway. It's a cheap linoleum floor, and they really didn't put it in right to begin with. See, I'm getting in here now. Kind of just slapping it on. I might have enough to cover this, but the other thing is if you want to keep this container to use it, you're going to have to kind of start working a little faster. All right, I got everything looking pretty much the way I want to. It's drying. I'll probably have to put another coat on, but I won't know that until tomorrow when I sand this off. I got a few other things to do today. But now my challenge is, this is the look I want on the front. And the doors are not going to be bad, but the drawer covers, this is the challenge. The video I looked at on YouTube actually had this drawer being basically flat mount, so you just screw it on the front. However, the challenge with this one is you have the fact this drawer is, number one, stapled in the back, but there's also a little tongue and groove in here as well. So I'm going to have to go phone a friend, basically. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take these drawers, we're going to take the roller part off, and then we're going to square these off, this piece here. So this piece here is going to look like the back piece here, and then we're just going to screw it into the front plate. Okay, as far as primers and the actual paint I'm going to use for the cabinets, this stuff's a little more expensive. This sticks, but I love it for the inside. And there's even contractors that use this on tile and concrete as a bonding primer. It's excellent. It's going to help fill in some of the cracks that you've missed. And I found this on a YouTube search, so you may want to do that. These are Benjamin Moore paints. Now, the thing is, the cabinet doors, they're made of a fiber wood. It's more of a fiber board. Now I'm going to show you more on that in a little bit, but you want to use more of this stain here, and this is going to be, it's going to be oil based, and it's got the resin in there. It does a good job too, but since you're doing MDF, it's going to soak up a water-based primer. And on top of all of it, this Command Benjamin Moore paint. It comes highly recommended by the company there I used in Madison, Alabama. And I'm going to go with a agreeable gray on this. Again, you get what you pay for when it comes to stains and paints. But as far as the trim pieces, I'm probably just going to use the spray can. But for everything I'm doing, I'm going to be using this spray gun here. So now I'm taking this project outside because a lot of these pieces I can take outside, of course. And it's always easier. And the last time I did my half bath, I just took the whole cabinet out, and that was because I had to replace the floor. I didn't want to go through all that extensive work on this. But these are MDF panels here, the ones I got from Front and Center. Again, I saw there's a discount coupon for these on April Wilkerson's YouTube page. You may want to find that. Again, I think it's 20% off, something like that. But again, it's MDF. Most of this is smooth, and you can just primer right over it. And this is what we're going to use the resin-based primer, the other primer for. The primer drying time on what I just did, it's about 3 to 4 hours before you can paint over it. So I'm going to wait, do that tomorrow. Probably be able to do all this tomorrow as well. But what you're trying to get is the fine little areas where you still have a little bit of this fiberboard. And the reason you want to get that off is because it's going to soak in more of the primer. So it'll take more primer to do that. All right, day 4. I'm not sure what outfit this is, probably 4 or 5. We're getting there. Home stretch. I've got the doors here, and gonna do the rest of the bathroom later. I'll paint these first out here in the garage while the wind's nice and calm out here. Humidity's still pretty low. Storm's coming in later tonight, so I'll get this done. And overall, it's turning out pretty good. Just some little spots here in this MDF you got to watch out. It really soaked up more primer than I thought it would, but it turned out pretty good after it dried overnight. But I'm going to get to this again, more sanding. This is about a 220 grit here on this sponge sander, and these are good to get in those corners. What do you think, Inspector? Okay, we've reached the end of the project. Roughly took me about 4 days. I think the longest time-consuming part was on those MDF cabinet, these panels here. And again, I think it's because they soaked up a little bit more of the primer than I initially thought, even though I used the oil-based primer. But so now, before I tackle the kitchen project, I need to figure out if buying these already painted and matching the paint of the cabinets, the doors they send me, if that's going to be going to save me enough time to compensate how much money it's going to cost. So that's one thing I need to do. So again, I encourage all of you to kind of experiment with things. I messed up a few things, but we learned from our mistakes, was able to patch up some of those holes, and overall, very pleased with how this turned out. Going to add a granite countertop here eventually, and then tile this floor, and then get rid of the popcorn ceiling.